Can't remember how to do this. Welcome to the Gospelovergimmicks podcast. This week we're going to talk about 10 ways to prove God doesn't exist. Let's get after it. Thank you for joining me for the Gospelovergimmicks podcast. I'm your host, Richard Storm, and Norman here to tell you everything I know, some things I highly suspect. Been a minute. Trying to remember how to even do. I guess I should probably put a hat on. That's kind of my thing, ain't it? Got some new scallies. Listen, I got this one. My wife bought me. Pink is not my color. But it's not often my wife buys something without consulting me first. So I'm like, I'll rock it. It's not bad when you add the gray. You got the gray in there with it. Gray and pink works pretty good together. Anyway, we'll go with this one. Yeah. All right. So, podcast still on hiatus. We're just going to do an impromptu one here. Not going to be following the format as closely as we would usually. But, I've been listening to some podcasts lately. Some new podcasts I found that I really like. Theology Roundtable. My teacher at a Bible college, he started a podcast with his daughter called the Immovable Podcast. Been into that. Fundamental Baptist podcast I found I enjoy listening to. So I've been listening to some podcasts lately, and I was like, man, I really miss doing a podcast. So my wife went on vacation this week with her mom, sister, aunt. They do that thing kind of every year. So I'm here. She comes home tomorrow, and I'm like, man, if I get a chance while she's gone, I'm gonna put a podcast episode on, because I've had these notes I made months ago just sitting here. I was like, might as well. I already got it together. Already got stuff. I got ideas for future episodes I should probably have written down already. But I was like, if I get a chance, I'm gonna take it. And I'm in the middle of doing my Sunday school notes, and I got the house to myself, and I'm like, I'm gonna do a podcast, even though it probably means I'm gonna have to stay up all night finishing my Sunday school notes. But here we are to do it. And podcast still on hiatus. And I don't know when the next episode is going to be after this one. But, it's the process, like we talked about, the house buying process. Not an easy one. I guess if, you got all your ducks in a row, it's probably not that bad. But, we got a pre-approved for $200,000. But if you know anything about this market, $200,000 ain't going to get you much. So we're trying to get my wife's credit up so that we can add her to the mortgage application and get that bumped up. We like to get it bumped up to about $300,000. Somewhere close to that. Or, if we see a good deal and we can jump on it, we might do that. I don't really know. But it's a process. It's going to take us a couple more months to get through it. I hope it ain't too much longer than that. But appreciate y'all praying for us and whatnot. And I really miss doing the podcast, and I can't wait till I can get back to doing it on a more regular basis. But this is what we got today. I can jump in here and put up an episode and scratch that itch that I got. Okay. Don't want to leave y'all hanging on the weather. I don't have a clue what the weather is, but it's about part of the year where we're starting to fade out of the cold mornings and, warm afternoons, and we're starting to get into warm mornings and hot afternoons. So that's happening. And I don't know what the weather is currently outside. I think it's 79. 79 outside. So there's your weather update. You ain't had one in a while. Uh, yeah. So I guess we'll just give you a little bit of information. Well, let's just go ahead and jump into it. 10 ways, or 10 ways to prove God does not exist. So let me give you some background information where I got the idea for this episode. I was watching a video, Red Pen Logic. I really like following him on Facebook. And he's an apologist. Not a Bible believer, like us King James folk. But pretty good. Pretty good stuff he does. Pretty interesting format he has for his channel and Facebook page and whatnot. But he did a video. Somebody commented on a video he did with 10 ways to prove that God doesn't exist. Now, they're ridiculous. They're really quite ridiculous. And he sit there and he took them apart in less than like 3 minutes. I think that it was a 3-minute challenge. And then he threw it over to Mike Winger on his channel. And he did it in the same amount of time. But I thought, why don't I take a shot at it? I'm not going to do it in 3 minutes. But I want to go over these. They're really stupid. I wrote these notes months ago. So let's see what I got here. You can watch many atheists on YouTube or elsewhere offer up many thought-provoking things to deny the existence of God. Of course, they are wrong, but they will make you think. Sometimes questions you hear from an atheist that are, not as stupid as the ones we're going to look at today, you can go, oh man, I really got to think about that. This is not that situation. This is not going to be that. And I already told y'all about where I got the idea from. Like I said, these are not thought-provoking or deep. These are like your 10-year-old in Sunday school could probably shut these down, most of them. But I thought I would take a stab at it. Let's see what happens. Number one, the fact that a human being has to tell you about the existence of your God proves there is no God. We should be born with knowledge of his existence. Now, there's two problems with this one. There are a lot of things that exist that we wouldn't know about if somebody hadn't told us. Think about all the things you learned in school as a kid. History. You read about World War II. You read about the Revolutionary War, things that happened in the Revolutionary War. Was any of us alive during the Revolutionary War? No. Somebody had to tell us about it. Scientific discoveries. We learned that if we do this, this will happen and it'll benefit humanity. Somebody had to tell us about that. We wouldn't know. Right? What if Pasteur had discovered, he was the one that discovered penicillin, I think. What if he discovered penicillin and didn't tell nobody? So there's a lot of things that have been discovered or things that just exist that we wouldn't know about if someone hadn't told us. Just because someone had to teach you these things doesn't mean they don't exist. That's just silly. Second, we are born with the knowledge of God. And this is the one thing that the dude, what's his name? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But the video I was watching, this is the one thing he didn't mention that I wish he would have mentioned. Human beings, the objection was the fact that a human has to tell you about the existence of God proves that God don't exist. We would be born with knowledge of his existence. And the Bible says we are born with knowledge of his existence. Romans 1:19, a very familiar one I'm sure a majority of y'all are familiar with. Romans 1:19 and 21. Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. The Bible says you are born with a knowledge of God, and he shows himself to you every day in creation so that you're without excuse. You can't say, well, I didn't know God exists. He literally shows you every day. You are born knowing there's a God. Number 2, a God belief is simple geography. Being raised in a religious home decides which God you believe in. Now, this has nothing to do at all with whether or not God exists. If no one on the planet believed in God, would that mean God didn't exist? No. If nobody, there's people in Africa, there's people in Europe who ain't never heard of Richard Norman. Does that mean I don't exist just because they've never heard of me? No. Number 3, there was no time before the Big Bang. So that means there was no time for a God to exist in or create things. I don't want to say this is the stupidest one because I'm sure there's other ones, but this one's pretty stupid. God does not exist in time. We've talked about this on here before too. Isaiah 57:17. For the iniquity of his covetousness was I wroth and smote him. I hid me and was wroth, and he went out frowardly in the way of his heart. 57:15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy, I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the spirit of the contrite ones. He inhabits eternity. He doesn't live inside time. Psalm 90 verse 4. For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday, when it is past, and as a watch in the night. In Genesis 1:14, God creates time. So how could a being that exists in time create time? Well, there was no time, so God didn't exist. God doesn't exist in time. God created time for us because it's beneficial for us to have time. But he doesn't live inside time. He's eternal. He lives in eternity. He lives in the past, the present, future. He has existed, will always exist. Number 4, the Abrahamic covenant cannot exist because it wasn't the first God to be created. The Abrahamic God cannot exist because it wasn't the first God to be created. Now there's more to this sentence, but you can already see where he's messing up. There are other gods who have been proclaimed to exist before this God. They can't all be true. So if we can deny the existence of one of these gods, we can use the same method to deny them all. The existence, or technically the non-existence of false gods, does not mean that there is not a true God. If you had, 10 Rolex watches and you proved that one of those Rolexes was a fake, it was, unauthentic Rolex watch, cheap, made in China kind of thing, whatever, and you proved that one watch is a fake, that doesn't mean all the other 9 are fakes. It doesn't mean just because one's a fake that the rest of them are fake. God even told us that there would be false gods in Isaiah chapter 45. So just because one God ain't real, well, I've looked at the evidence and I have determined that the God of Buddhism or Hinduism is not real, therefore none of the gods are real. That's just dumb. It don't work that way. Number 5, God either allows the devil to exist and is an accomplice, or he isn't an all-powerful God. An all-powerful and loving God wouldn't allow the devil to exist. Let's look at Isaiah 45:7. That was the verse he quoted in that proof, as he thinks it is. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. So he's saying the Lord creates evil. And I know there's other, Christians and whatnot that have the same problem with that verse. But as an all-powerful being, God can and does use anything he wants to accomplish his plan, including the devil. No, just because something's bad doesn't mean God can't use it. Not to mention in that passage in Isaiah when it says God creates evil, not all evil is moral evil. Natural disasters that kill people, so hurricane, tornado comes through, kills 50 people. That's evil, but it's not a moral evil. God creates men, and by his free will, man creates evil. Man commits evil. So you could also use that. Since God creates evil, well, he created you, and you were evil, or are evil, if you're not saved. Not to mention this line of thinking is a false dilemma, which insinuates that because one thing exists, that another thing cannot. Number 6, the God of the Bible is jealous of other gods. This proves that this God is not the only one. With multiple choices, only shows that there is no reason to choose just one. If God were true, there would be no other options. So you ever take a test? We've all probably been in school at some point, elementary school, junior high, high school, whatnot. Sorry. And you've probably taken a test. You ever taken a test that had a multiple choice? The answers on it were multiple choice. So when you're taking those tests that are multiple choice and you're sitting there looking at the answers and you're like, which one's correct? Like, I don't remember. I didn't study this. Which one's correct? So you're looking at them and you're thinking, well, since I can't figure out which one's correct, they must all be wrong. Now, would you think that? Taking a multiple choice test? I don't know which one it is, so they must all be wrong. No, one of them's right. Just because you can't figure out which one it is doesn't mean it ain't right. He said if God were true, there would be no other options. Just because there's fakes, like we already discussed, just because there's fake gods doesn't mean that there's not one true God. Number 7, there's no evidence that spiritual energy exists, so we can conclude that physics, ghosts, and gods are non-existent. Otherwise, God has nothing to be made of. My question in return is, what the heck is spiritual energy? I have not ever seen anything in here that talked about God being made of spiritual energy. God existed before anything was created and therefore is not made of anything we can see or even comprehend, for that matter. What's God made of? Don't know. God is a spirit. And I don't know. What's the spirit made of? Nobody knows. I don't know what spiritual energy is. But the Bible says in John 7:24 that God is spirit. Nothing, however, about spiritual energy. Number 8, there is no such thing as nothing. For nothing to exist would cause it to be something. Creationists believe that God created the universe out of literal nothing. That's what we call ex nihilo. Is this not the same argument that atheists make? They claim that there was nothing, and then all of a sudden there was an explosion, and then the universe existed after that. Out of nothing. There was just nothing, and then an explosion. And they'll be like, well, all these things came together and got all concentrated until they just exploded. There was nothing, though. Where did those things come from that caused this explosion? What was the source of ignition for the explosion if there was nothing, if nothing existed? Anyway, that's kind of the same argument that the atheists, the people that believe in evolution, they say there's nothing in the Big Bang and then there was a universe. If God is all powerful, then creating the universe out of nothing was no hard task for him. He just spoke it into existence. And it makes a lot more sense than saying, well, there was a whole lot of nothing and then an explosion. Okay, never seen that happen. Never heard of nothing producing something. This doesn't work that way. Number 9, this isn't a finely tuned world created with us in mind. The sun gives you cancer, most of the water is undrinkable, and diseases run rampant. If there was an intelligent designer, there wouldn't be any mistakes. So here's the thing. God created a perfect world. He did. Reading through the first couple chapters of Genesis, there was no disease, no lack of food. Water was drinkable, no disease. But what happened? We screwed up. We took what God created that was perfect and just wrecked it with our sin. Romans 8:22, for we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain until now. Why is the whole creation groaning and travailing? Because it wants to be like it was. It doesn't like all this sin. It wants to be perfect like it once was. The world was not made to accommodate sin. God didn't make it that way. Ever since the fall, the planet has been slowly decaying. You know, God, the planet God created was going to look exactly like it did forever until we messed it up. And now it's slowly dying and decaying. But the fact we can still live and thrive here sounds like a finely tuned world to me. Go to Mars and try to plant corn and see if it grows. You know, go to some other planet and try to walk around and just breathe in the air and see how good that works out for you. It's not going to work out. Number 10. Evolution is obviously proven and true. This means that we weren't created by magic and are somehow superior to the animal kingdom. No creator, no God. Evolution is not proven, though. That's why it's called a theory. Me and this fellow, a long time ago when I first started the Facebook page for the podcast, me and this guy was going back and forth a little bit about evolution and how it's a theory. Well, and he's talking about how, you know, I would have to get into it and explain to you the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. Regardless, neither one of them are proven factual information. You know what? Look up the definitions. So evolution is not proven. That's why it's called a theory. But if it were proven, you would have to believe that the universe exploded from nothing, and amongst all the planets that came from it, one just happened to be habitable for life. Wow, what are the odds? What are the odds of that? That takes some serious faith to believe some stuff like that. Also, evolution does not disprove the existence of God. Even if it were true, you could still be left asking what caused it, and the answer could be God. Could be, if you wanted it to be, but you know, most of them, they don't want it to be. So there you go. No, I'm no highly trained apologist, but I've noticed one thing apologists do sometimes is leave out the Bible when answering questions like that. And I think that's a terrible idea. The Lord gave us this Bible. You know, you're not winning people to the Lord by doing arguments and stuff like that. You're winning them to the faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Well, we can't use the Bible because they don't believe it. I don't care. They use their sources they believe in. Use your sources that you believe in. It's not off the table. So there you have it. I'll admit those notes sounded a lot better 2 months ago when I made them. I think it's been 2 months. I don't even know. Sounds about right. But appreciate y'all letting me come on here and talk to y'all. It's been a minute since I came on here. Well, it's been since February since I did an actual proper podcast episode. So that's a while ago. Appreciate y'all, and that's going to do it for today. Don't forget the website. It still exists. gospelovergimmicks.com or gospelovergimmicks.org. You can still go on over there and check out all the things I got on the website. So the email address, gospelovergimmicks@gmail.com, stuff like that. Don't forget to like, share, rate, review. My thing's kind of out of date here. If you'd like to donate money, I know we ain't been doing episodes, and I've had a couple patrons drop off. I understand that. But if you wanted to donate, Patreon, PayPal, those are still ways you can do it. And I've been working. So we sold my wife's car, which probably wasn't the greatest idea. But we sold my wife's car, I don't know, a month or two ago. So she's been driving my truck, and I've been driving my Ranger project. Some of y'all probably seen it in the background in the garage when I would do videos out there when we lived at the old place. So I had to get my Ranger road ready again, and I got it to where I can drive it to work, but it seems like every weekend I've been working on it. Since then I did what I do last weekend. I did inner and outer tie rods, and then the weekend before that I did the shift pedal. Had to replace the shift pedal and the clutch pedal. And the week before that I did rotors, pads, and bearings, and it just seems like every week and this weekend I gotta look at the rear brakes because I think they're sticking. It's pain in the butt. But I say that because at some point when I feel like I've gotten everything fixed on that thing that needs to be fixed, then I'm going to take a Sunday or a couple Sundays and start working on the Gospelovergimmicks store that I started. And we still got the one over at Spring. You can still go buy t-shirts over there at the Gospelovergimmicks store at Teespring or Spring, whatever they call it now. But I'm going to get the other one going at Spread Shop and add some t-shirt, try and have some more products. We got 2 t-shirts on the Spring store, but on this one, we're going to have like a whole store. We're going to have multiple t-shirt designs, hats, coffee cups, whatever I can think of to put on there. And we're going to have a much better Gospelovergimmicks store. But first I got to get the Ranger all buttoned up, and then I'm going to spend a couple Sundays working on that. So look forward to that. Hopefully we'll have it done into the summer, something like that. Of course, the whole house buying thing too takes up some time. Yeah, anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out with me, talking about some things. I got some other ideas for some podcasts I might do. I might go and work on the notes here and there when I get a chance, so that whenever I have an opportunity to jump on here, I'll have something ready. So we'll try and get you a couple more episodes out at some point, whenever I happen to have a chance. So thank y'all for hanging out with me today. Until next time, take up your cross. Carry on. My bad. So I recorded that yesterday and just realized that I forgot to do a joyful noise segment. I tell y'all, get off the podcast for a little while. Already getting rusty. So let me grab the redback and let's see what we can come up with. Let's try this one. Where we'll never grow old. I have heard of a land on a faraway strand. 'Tis a beautiful home of the soul, built by Jesus on high. There we never shall die. 'Tis a land where we never grow old. Never grow old, never grow old, in a land where we'll never grow old. Never grow old, never